Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Office Hours, a weekly live show brought to you by the team at Bunker Labs, a national network of veteran entrepreneurs and military spouses dedicated to helping grow our ecosystem. I'm your host, the one and only Iron Mike Stedman, coming to you from Newark, New Jersey, joined by my co-host, Amy Morrison, and our guests today from Robinhood, Vincent Schaefer and Chad Miller. What's going on, gentlemen?
Morning. Thanks for having us.
Doing well.
We're going to be talking about why retirement and investment planning is important to entrepreneurs. But before we do that, let me go ahead and pass it over to my co-host, Amy, to share any updates that are taking place in the bunker.
Thanks, Mike. Yep, got a couple things. So once more, for the last time, USAA pitch competition is happening this Friday in Washington, D.C. So you can join us for that if you are in the D.C. area. Link will be in the comments. And then we've got a new blog spotlight on the blog this week for Stefan Manuel, who was a West Point grad, and he has a company called True Fiction, which teaches the history of marginalized people through the use of comic books. So that is an awesome story. You should check that out. And then last but not least, we have a VIR facilitator opportunity. So Bunker Labs is hiring some local facilitators on a contractor basis. It's a 5-month position, and you can help your local veterans and residents with their businesses and help them grow. So you can. I will post the link again in the comments, and you need to apply by October 27th for that. And that is what we've got going on in the bunker.
Awesome. Special shout out to my man, Stefan. He's my frat brother. He was also a member of the Army boxing team. We never got to compete, but he's doing some great work with True Fiction. And for those of you out there that are interested in getting involved in the bunker, I feel like being that facilitator is some low-hanging fruit, particularly if you already have a bit of a business background. That's super important to our veterans and residents to facilitate those calls, hold people accountable, and it's a great opportunity to provide value to the community. So if that's something you're interested in, please click the link and let us know. So without further ado, I'm excited to talk with the Robinhood team. But before we do that, we need to go ahead and share the disclaimer slide, which I think Amy just showed.
Yep. Okay, good.
All right. So, gentlemen, first of all, welcome to the platform. Excited to have you here today. We're going to be talking about an important topic because when you're head down in the day-to-day grind of the entrepreneurship, sometimes retirement planning and investment is the last thing you're able to think about, particularly when you're just trying to keep healthy cash in the business, barely pay yourselves, pay your employees, etc. So really excited to have you all here today. And so before we jump in, how about we go ahead and have you just introduce yourself to our viewers. Chad, we'll start with you.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Super excited to be here. Been a big fan of Bunker Labs for a long time and been watching Iron Mike for a while on a lot of these live streams. So really excited to get involved. My name's Chad Hicks. I've been with Robinhood for about 4.5 years now. Started as their first hire for the original fraud and financial crimes team. Over that time, I've been able to move through several different departments, from product to regulatory compliance, as well as help with IPO risk monitoring. I myself did 5 years in the Marine Corps as a marksmanship instructor, 2 tours in Afghanistan, Haiti relief, as well as several different operations. And really excited to be here and really excited to talk about long-term investment strategies as well as retirement in general.
Awesome.
Morning all. My name is Vincent Schaefer. I'm the Senior Manager of Retirement Services here at Robinhood. Joined the company about 2 years ago after a 14-year career at another large IRA custodian and clearing firm. I actually had the awesome opportunity to help Robinhood stand up our retirement offering late last year. And today my team handles the end-to-end processing and daily operations of our retirement business. And I'm a self-described retirement nerd, so I'm very much looking forward to this conversation today.
So let's just jump right in. Why is retirement planning and investing important for this community?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take that one. I think the 2 key words, Mike, that you hit on there were planning and investing, right? So I'm a big believer in proper planning prevents poor performance. So much like an entrepreneur, you create that business plan that, it serves as your roadmap in terms of success, whether that's customers, sales, revenues. The same planning concept can really be applied to success in terms of entering a phase in your life where you either fully retire or you need to supplement your income with funds you've put away for retirement. So, much like success in business, that doesn't happen by accident. It requires thoughtful planning and then, more importantly, executing on that plan. And so, we can't plan for things like inflation or market performance, but what is in your control is planning for those contributions that you're making to your retirement plan. The other term you used there was investing, right? So I'm going to use one of these outdated phrases. When is the best time to plant a shade tree when you need some shade, right? The answer is 10 years ago. But if you failed to plant 10 years ago, there's no better time than now. So much like that tree, your retirement savings, it doesn't grow overnight. You're going to experience seasons of drought, seasons of, explosive growth. But then you get to a point where you can enjoy that shade later that the tree provides. So your retirement journey, it's going to look the same way, or it could look the same way. Seasons of drought in the market, other seasons of strong growth, but the same concept really prevails. You plant your retirement seeds early, and then you hopefully be able to enjoy the fruits when they're needed in the future.
Now, our audience are primarily veteran entrepreneurs and military spouses. And does that change the game with regards to how they should approach retirement planning for themselves and their employees?
Yeah, I believe so. And I think one thing to just kind of clarify for the audience here is that retirement's going to look different for everyone. You hear these terms like retirement and certain things come to mind, but really gone are the days where people work for the same company for 30 or 40 years. And then they simply stop working and they expect that pension that either the government or the company provided to last you throughout your full retirement. Retirement for some people might just mean the ability to scale back, work part-time, maybe pursue some volunteer opportunities. It could mean periods and transition where you sell your business, but you're not quite ready to leave the workforce yet. Or it could mean leaving a legacy for your family and friends if you don't ever have plans to stop working. So specifically for the entrepreneurial community here, approaching the topic of retirement comes with its own unique share of challenges, but also with the unique share of opportunities. So, one thing it comes back to is the intentional planning that I just referenced. Unlike a 401k plan offered by an employer or the thrift savings plan offered by the government for service members, another party isn't matching you, automatically on top of your contributions to a retirement plan as an entrepreneur. Rather, as that entrepreneur, you are the employer. So there's opportunities for you to explore possible tax savings associated with making those contributions to a retirement plan for yourself, your spouse, or your employees if you have them. In some of these scenarios, right, the opportunities allow you to put away more than you ever could have in an individual retirement account or as a participant in somebody else's plan. So it all circles back to, as an entrepreneur, you're in control for better or for worse. And this includes the control for the preparedness of your retirement planning and savings.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is when you're coming through the entrepreneurial ecosystem and you're learning lean startup methodology and all this, everything is focused on the business model and the product. And like the founders and the team, it's like a byproduct. Like we assume you're going to get compensated something, but during that time, I don't remember ever talking about, financial security in the long term or thinking about what it would take to set up a matching program for your employees. Because in the early stages, it's all about just trying to find what do they call it? Product market fit. And so when you're talking about these topics, at what point in the entrepreneurial journey do you think is more realistic for people to consider that?
I mean, the true answer there is just, you got to learn how to flex that muscle. And if you can flex that muscle early and often, meaning right when you start up, it's that intentional planning, no matter how small that contribution you're making, how simple it is just to set up that account and put little amounts away. That's all going to pay off in the long run. So it might not be the answer that everyone wants to hear, or maybe that everybody has acted on so far, but flex that muscle early and often is really the right approach for it.
Now, I'm excited to get your point of view, Chad, because not only are you a fellow devil dog, hurrah, but you're a small business owner. And what was your experience either while you were in the military or you transitioned into civilian life and started your business? How did you approach planning and preparing for retirement? Do you feel like this was a topic, at least in your immediate network, that people were often talking about?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I have to say, the military itself, upon separation, really lacks a lot of the fundamental and rudimentary things that folks need to be successful in the long term. Upon separation, we all sit through TAPS. We, hear the local law enforcement do their job sales pitch, but there's very little associated with long-term retirement planning. For me personally, I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. So retirement planning has been like at the top of mind since the beginning. I started investing in different instruments like Roth IRAs and various other long-term financial vehicles so that I could make sure and sustain, in the long term, a lot of the finances that I had accumulated throughout my working career. I think that, by partnering with Bunker Labs, as well as with a lot of other individuals and resources, you can really start to, like Vincent said, flex that muscle so that you can start getting your mindset in a kind of flow for the long term and understand how important, now is important, but what are you going to do 20, 30 years from now? And so it's really the ownership and the onus is upon the individual, especially as an entrepreneur. And we all know entrepreneurs are very resourceful. They can make a lot with nothing, just like Marines do. We get very little, but we make it happen. So I think, just starting early, like Vincent said, is your best bet there.
Now, a lot of people come from different family backgrounds, right? And there's always this topic of financial literacy and how important it is for either of you. What role did family play in helping you, understand the importance of retirement?
Yeah, I can take that one. So, my family, while supportive of my military service, never really focused heavily on long-term financial planning or really any sort of financial security in general. Kind of had to learn the building blocks along the way. But, by creating a strong network of other entrepreneurs like Bunker Labs does and other local groups, you can really tap into resources where you can learn and get that support that you need. Support is really, really important. As folks who transition out of the military, they have to be extremely proactive about a lot of the decisions and choices they make about their financial future. And so there's no easy shortcut here. Like Vince said, this shade tree takes decades or many years to grow. And so it's extremely important that you take that ownership from the beginning. And if you have a supportive family in the background that both supported you during your military career and continue to support you going forward in your financial endeavors and aspirations, that's just icing on the top. But in the end, it all comes down to you. And so it's up to you to reach out, educate yourself, and really build that strong education and knowledge associated with financial planning.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is, it's that concept of breaking those chains, right? So I come from a family, the same thing, finance was never really top of mind. And just the ability to break the generational chain of saving for retirement is something that's, a big accomplishment in and of itself.
One of the reasons I think the veteran entrepreneur and military spouse ecosystem is so primed to fuel this economy is because when you look at the housing situation, right, mortgage rates are extremely high. When you think about education, right, education is super expensive these days. But being a military veteran does come with its benefits, right? You have the VA home loan, right? You have the GI Bill. Can you talk about how those backgrounds, how those different benefits we have in the veteran community can support retirement planning for the entrepreneurs?
Yeah, absolutely. So, being honorably discharged from the military comes with a series of benefits and, resources that are available to separating service members. And so it's really, really important that you utilize those services and you build that strong community of entrepreneurs, whether it be through Bunker Labs, another mastermind organization, local groups, and you really try to learn as much as possible and educate yourself. It builds that support system around you. And so one of the good things about military benefits is that a lot of VAs will help with tax benefits. They'll help with, long-term financial or crisis planning. But in addition to that, some of the VA offices have resources that allow you to really, really tap into and learn as much as you can about long-term savings, long-term financial sustainability. And so, it's identifying those assets, using conduits like Bunker Labs to, really build on those resources, find those various avenues that you can build your expertise, as well as, find that support structure internally. Veterans, I'm co-lead of the Robinhood veterans here. And, veterans don't really like to speak up. And it's really, really important that you do speak up. You tap those individuals, both from like a financial planning, a mental health viewpoint, as well as just having that community and that camaraderie. I can't tell you how, like, just going to a local VFW or a local American Legion to talk with other service members and other veterans, understand the way that we all communicate, which is very, very different than how people communicate in the corporate or business world. And, you just get that refresher. You feel kind of like revitalized and rejuvenated. So I just want to say, all the veterans out there that are kind of running everything pro bono, trying to run it solo. Yeah, you may be successful, but there's all these resources and all these different groups available to you. And Bunker Labs is just a start there.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to go back to you, Vincent. Do you feel like there are any big misconceptions people have with retirement planning?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I hear that, two things come immediately to mind. One is just the timing around saving for retirement. We covered it a little bit earlier here. You hear people say, I'll start saving for retirement when I have a certain level of income. That's when I'll start doing it. Or once I can make larger contributions, that's when I'll open that retirement account. The reality comes back to that shade tree principle. If you haven't already planted your tree or started saving, the best time to do that is now. And it comes back, you got to be intentional about it, no matter how small that first contribution is, how small the percentage of your overall, revenues that you're contributing. Let the time in the market and that concept of compounding returns work for you. And then the other, misconception that I hear all the time is just that the world of retirement accounts, it's too complex to grasp, or it's not worth the time of, looking into it. And, that's easily understood. You hear terms like IRA, 401k, TSP, and it's intimidating to even know where to start with that. So the reality is that, break it down, right? These plans offer potential tax advantages for you. And the concept is you put money away now for the concept of leveraging that money at a later time. And so, I go back, Chad, that is great advice for the military community and the community in general. Speaking with a tax professional or even members of the Bunker Labs community on which accounts they've opened and why, what's working for them would be a great use of time, in my opinion.
All right, let's make it plain for our viewers now. So let's use a case study, okay? Lance Corporal Smuckatelli opens a coffee shop in his hometown, little Main Street business, okay? He's got rent probably about $2,500 a month, and he's barely making any money right now because coffee doesn't have the highest margin, okay? What are 3 tips you can have to help set him up for success as he starts to prepare for retirement?
Yeah, I'll keep it real simple on this one, right? So don't overcomplicate it is tip number 1. You make a plan and you execute on it. And to your point, you have different variables in this case study, but making a plan and executing does not mean that you can't iterate, over time. So as your circumstances change, iterate, make a plan, get started. That's simple tip number 1. Number 2, start early. Don't wait for someday. No matter the challenges you're facing and how small you're starting out with your retirement journey, don't talk about doing it someday, because as probably most of you know, someday never comes. And then step number 3, and I think this is an interesting one. Take advantage of any automation that you can, right? So you think about working for a large employer where you have payroll deduct. That doesn't mean as an entrepreneur that you can't create those similar synergies of automated options for making contributions so that you can set it there and you don't have to be intentional about keep on making those. So you're going to have to reassess your investment mix during your journey there, but the value of automated contribution shouldn't be ignored. So those are the 3 that come immediately to mind.
Awesome, man. Well, I think that's great advice. And for our listeners that are viewing, I know we don't talk about this stuff a lot on this platform, right? Because for the most part, we try to promote entrepreneurship, but life is not happening in a bubble, right? So while you're building your business, right, we're still raising families. We still have to set money aside for retirement. We still need to take care of our mental, physical, and spiritual wellness. And so that's why we're starting to cover some of these topics on the platform. So I really appreciate you all making time to do this. Now we're going to transition into one of my favorite parts of the show, which are book recommendations. So Chad and Vincent, what book recs do you have for our viewers today?
You want to start off with yours?
Yeah, sure. So, as a lifelong entrepreneur, I, try to tap into every resource I possibly can while simultaneously building relationships with a lot of these prominent, financial advisors, as well as just overall theorists in general when it comes to, long-term sustainability. A book I always come back to, and it's been reprinted a couple of times, is called Core Business. It's the management principles of the Marine Corps. And, it's written by a civilian who's an outside observer, so has a very objective opinion on the way that the systems and the various individuals within the Marine Corps operate. And there's just a lot of takeaways from this book. I highly recommend everyone pick it up or get an Audible copy of it and read it, because no matter how long it's been since I've read this book, I always come back to it to learn different ways to empower folks, especially a lot of my direct reports that are veterans, as well as folks in the Veterans ERG here at Robinhood. And so it's just a really great framework in general for kind of planning and trying to, spill ideas out and find ways to, really be successful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what about you, Vincent?
Yeah, the book I've been digging into, I don't know if it's been mentioned on Bunker Labs before, but it's called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And it starts off this book by, describing the difference between a finite game. So think like Monday Night Football last night, right? You had a time clock. You had a defined winner and loser. They had to play by the rules. And then you contrast that against an infinite game. So an infinite game is not playing to win. It's actually playing to keep the game going and stay in the game as long as possible. So I draw this back to like the business community, even retirement planning in certain aspects. It's an infinite game. There is no winner and loser. You constantly have people entering and exiting the market. There's no fixed rules to play by. And really at the core of the book, it's just saying that adopting this infinite mindset is really, the way to succeed in the long run.
That's awesome. Yeah, Simon Sinek, we're all a big fan of his. I actually recommended his book not too long ago, Start with the Why, and talked about it on a recent podcast. So I love that. And the thing I'll tell you too is, like, even for entrepreneurs, one thing I'm becoming more and more aware of, people tell us this when you're first starting out, but it really is a long game. And I think we're getting caught up in a lot of entrepreneurs get caught up in the startup grind, right? That quick 2 to 3 year exit, or so people think. But for small business owners, good luck. Even these startups, good luck. When you start a business, you better sit down and think about, can I do this for the next 10 years? Can I handle the blocking and tackling the day to day? Because it is a grind. Now, my recommendation for a book is, I'm actually not doing a book rec today. I'm actually doing a podcast, and it's the Nick Bare podcast with Seth Godin. And I believe the title of that episode is Why Business Culture Matters and How to Make Impact as a Leader. And for those of you who don't know who Nick Bare is, he's the founder of Bare Performance Nutrition, a supplement company that he started while on active duty as an infantry officer in the Army. Him and his brother started the business, and it's gone on to make massive success. And he actually stepped down as CEO from his own company, which is something that a lot of us aspire to do, because once you start, you realize, hey, I don't want to run the day-to-day. A lot of us are more visionaries. And so it's been cool to follow his journey. But he has this great episode with Seth talking about what does it take to form culture today, right? In this dispersed team, and it seems like where only people care about is profit, right? But employees are looking for a little bit more. I think one of the things he talks about, he ran these surveys, and financial compensation was like the bottom of like why people stayed at a particular company. It was culture, it was freedom and autonomy, it was the feeling of supportedness. So all these different things. And as we're building our businesses, right, I think it's important to kind of revisit, hey, what kind of culture are we building here? How intentional do we need to be about it? And I think Seth and Nick talk about it great on that episode. So highly recommend it. So as we close out here, gentlemen, any closing remarks or words of encouragement you would like to leave our viewers with before we send them back into the whirlwind?
Yeah, I'll just say, Robinhood cares about this community, and financial education is the core of our mission. And we're constantly looking for ways to provide different financial education to different communities. So I think the cool thing, Chad and I were talking about this before, over the next few months, Robinhood will be doing a roadshow of retirement education with the Bunker Labs community. So keep your eyes peeled to see if we're coming to a city near you.
Yeah, and I would also recommend everyone get involved, because Bunker Labs is a great organization. We've been working with them for a short period of time so far, but hope we can continue this partnership, because I love the work you're doing, and keep spreading the good word.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We appreciate you all. We're excited to have you as our ecosystem partners, and looking forward to continuing to build together. Before we close out, I want to give a quick plug for the Transition Podcast. Had an amazing episode with Mike Irwin from Team Red, White, and Blue, talking about leading yourself first and the importance of physical and mental wellness. If you're not familiar with Team RWB, check them out. They're doing some amazing stuff in the community. But let me tell you, man, Mike is a wealth of knowledge. I was scribbling all kind of notes, just interviewing him. So make sure you check out that podcast. And I have a favor. I would love for you to leave us a review and let us know what you think of the show. So drop a review for the Transition Podcast on iTunes. Special shout out to our sponsors for that show, the MetLife Foundation, for making it possible. We appreciate you. And to all of you out there tuning in, until next time, peace, love, and have a great rest of your week.